He's been described as the father of contemporary South African art, but most importantly, for spending his 40-year-long career carving out a space for black artists in the global art world. That's acclaimed legendary artist Ntate David Nthubu Koloane, who died last week at the age of 81. He was a pioneer of South African anti- and post-apartheid art and spent countless hours imparting his immense knowledge on emerging artists. Well, to help us pay tribute to the prolific, soft-spoken and humble man, we've invited a few of his fellow artists and good friends in Ntate Sam Nhlengethwa and Ntate Mautloa. Gentlemen, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time to come to speak to us about your legendary friend who has since left us.
Thank you.
Ntate Sam, I'd like to start with you. How would you describe the late David Nthubu as a person, outside of who he was as an artist?
Very quiet somebody. When he talks, it makes sense. Doesn't talk a lot, but whatever he says, it makes sense. He was a very quiet gentleman.
And to you, Ntate Nhlengethwa, I mean, Ntate Sam speaks of him being so soft-spoken, but someone who's got a lot of sense and someone who is easily listened to by his peers. What was your experience of him?
I do agree with Sam. I've known Brade, as we affectionately called him, for a period spanning over more or less 40 years. And as such, I've engaged and have known his family, his, Bachana and everything.
Yes.
And had the privilege of working with him in that same space and in the project for well over 28 years. So he was like sort of almost part of me and my everyday sort of side. Yes.
And Ntate Sam, let's speak about the first time you encountered him. When you first met, under what circumstances did you guys meet? Do you still remember that encounter?
I remember very well. I was young. I was about 22 years old. And I was a student at Art Foundation in Parktown. And Brade was there as one of the teachers, etc., under Bill Ainsley. So we come that far, and the three of us, me, him, and Pat, we are the co-founders of the Bag Factory Studios in Newtown. And his studio was like in the middle. I was on the right side, and then Pat was on the left side. So we've been working together for years, and because the walls were not reaching to the ceiling, and then we'd have these conversations from Pat, him, and myself. So, I mean, he's been a father figure to us.
Sure. And having been so close to him, obviously, and just sharing the space at the Bag Factory, yes. I want to talk about what that did for your friendship, your brotherhood, yes. And just what were some of the memories that were shared in that space, if you can bring us into that.
Well, he was quite a funny guy, because at times he was so quiet as to not even shout, to an extent that at times I used to come quite late in most of the times, but I would find him standing, in the corridor. And I was saying, Brade, what are you waiting for? He said, no, I'm coming to tell you a joke. So he'd be waiting there on the passage, wanted to tell me a joke. And first he would just laugh, go into stitches before he tells me a joke. And that was the kind of guy that he was. And I had a privilege of having to travel with him. I mean, Grahamstown Festival, we were sort of, co-exhibitors. And many places, to a point that I think of all the time when he was receiving the honors, he preferred to be driven by me. I mean, Free State, Grahamstown, Vets, and I had the privilege of being the guest of honor all the time.
That is so special.
Yes, it was very special.
Ntate Sam, did he ever tell you any jokes that you remember?
Well, there were too many jokes. I mean, Brade was just like, and sometimes he would, as Pat says, I mean, he would laugh first before you could sort of tell a joke. But I mean, it's like things like, you guys, you don't know what struggle is. You know, also home. You know, such things, and you tell us about his life in Alexander, Orlando, etc. And but what I liked about him, I mean, I think me and Pat were very fortunate to be mentored by him, because, like, as Pat says, that he would sort of like drive him around. I would say he was once invited in Florida. He couldn't make it, so I would say that the president says Tumamina. So he sent me to sort of like to go represent him in Florida. So he had trust in us, and like that trust, it made us to be who we are.
Ntate, you spoke about a lot of the times that you guys had to exhibit together, and I really want to get into his work. What do you think it was that made his work stand out, that earned him the local and international accolades? What were people drawn into when it came to, you know, just his work and how he presented his art?
I think his work, he managed to establish his own fingerprint.
All right, Ntate, I'll just give you an opportunity. I see a lot of people are seeing that they Pat on TV, and they want to give him a call and just catch up. Apologies for that interruption.
Yes, sorry.
We were talking about just his work, his art, and how people...
Yes, his work. What I was saying is that he had established his own language, which became sort of his fingerprint. And he was a storyteller, but at times he would choose the harsh part. Like, for instance, one of the drawings that came sort of foremost in what he was trying to express was imikodoi. You know, I mean, imagine you pick a street dog as a subject and you know, tell a story of a township just using a dog, you know. And for me, that was like quite phenomenal. And then he was doing all these stories about, you know, in Alexander, you find there are stray dogs, and then dogs that are stray and kind of destitute, they gang up like in the evening. And he used to do all these crowds of dogs and with like these gaping eyes.
And the ladies of the night.
And ladies of the night.
The other thing that I've realized about him, for some time, he's been a bit stingy on the palette, using monochromes. But like after some time, I mean, he came with beautiful colors, especially that theme of ladies of the night. I mean, like, there were reds, there were blues, there were, you know, yellows. So now lately he was just like into serious color.
Wow. And just to wrap it up, what do you think his legacy is?
His legacy is for us to grasp what he left and to continue, because like I said when I was talking the other day, is like, you know, he's been holding on to that baton, so he didn't drop it. So we must just like take that baton and hold it.
Run the race.
Run the race. Yeah. So that's our task.
But what I would say about him is that he's inspirational in a way that we always dream, but we never try to follow the dreams. His initial sort of dream about arts in the country and sort of empowerment was about artists having a space where they can operate as individuals and practice what they chose to be their volition as professional artists. And within the fray of that, what he did, and collectively we used to discuss about that, was to open up the studio and then get the space and our space to be an international space. And that worked very well, and as such, the same space has been copied right around the world. We've launched studios in India, in Cuba, in Uruguay, in really far-flung places from
The continent as well.
within the entire SADC. And then we always send to go and sort of start those things. And I think that was his dream. And I think, thanks God, the thing is in motion. And when he died, he leaves this big legacy.
And you guys will have to come back and tell us how you're continuing it on. Gentlemen, we are out of
Absolutely,
time.
yes.
But thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate you being here and just sharing all this wealth
Okay.
of knowledge and all these amazing experiences
You're
that
welcome. Thank you.
you guys have had. That was the two very artistic, very personable gentlemen who are helping us pay tribute to the legendary and acclaimed artist David Nthubu Koloane. And these are his friends, you know, his fellow artists, Pat Mautloa and Sam Nhlengethwa. The Alexandra-born artist died at the age of 81, and his funeral service will begin at 9. So we'll release the gents so they can go pay their final respects. We're going to take a quick break. Do stay with us here on Morning Live.